Hello my viewers and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video where we will be discussing the breaking news that sent shockwaves around the world. The International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor has finally made a groundbreaking announcement. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant have committed war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Now, this bombshell declaration has sparked a heated response from the international community, with US President Joe Biden swiftly coming to Israel's defense as usual. Now, in a statement, President Biden rejected the ICC's allegations, calling them outrageous and reaffirming America's unwavering support for Israel. But what does this mean for the people of Gaza who have suffered unimaginable violence and displacement at the hands of Israeli forces? And what does it mean for the international community, which has long grappled with the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Well, check out these videos as different people share their views on this news. I will be right back, and when I get back, I share my 2 cents on this.
I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine from at least the 8th of October 2023. The crimes include starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, willfully causing great suffering, serious injury to body or health or cruel treatment, willful or murder, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population, as well as crimes against humanity of extermination and or murder, persecution, and allegations of crimes of committing other inhumane acts. I have reasonable grounds to believe that 3 senior leaders of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Daif, and Ismail Haniyeh, bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of Israel and the State of Palestine from at least the 7th of October 2023. Extermination as a crime against humanity, murder as a crime against humanity and as a war crime, the taking of hostages as a war crime, and other acts of sexual violence during captivity as crimes against humanity and as war crimes, torture during captivity as a crime against humanity and as a war crime, other inhumane acts during captivity as a crime against humanity, cruel treatment during captivity as a war crime, and outrages upon personal dignity during captivity as a war crime. Today we underline in the clearest possible fashion that international law and the laws of armed conflict apply to everyone. No foot soldier, no commander, no civilian leader, no one can act with impunity.
So the ICC prosecutor has officially requested arrest warrants for Netanyahu, Gallant, and 3 age group leaders, Sinwar and 2 others. This doesn't really mean much because the ICC cannot enforce these warrants at all, but it's more symbolic than anything else, saying like, hey, the international community recognizes what you're doing is fucked up. Putin has an arrest warrant out for him, but of course they can't do anything really, and they won't do anything about it. So essentially, these warrants are issued. If these warrants are issued, court members, including nearly all EU countries, will put in a diplomatically difficult position. This is a watershed event in the history of international justice, says a veteran war crimes prosecutor. The ICC has never, in over 21 years of existence, indicted a Western official. Indeed, no international tribunal since Nuremberg against representatives of Germany has done so. Both Is Not Real and Palestinian reps have denounced this. Now, the ICC is the world's first permanent international war crimes court. It has 124 member states, which are obliged to immediately arrest the wanted person if they are on a member state's territory, but the court has no means to enforce these arrest warrants. And again, like, Is Not Real and the US are not members of the ICC, but if they commit acts against a member, then, like, the ICC has jurisdiction, even though, again, it doesn't mean much. But anyways,
we all owe Amal Clooney an apology. Wallah, myself included, we owe her a huge apology. In the midst of this discourse about blocking celebrities who aren't speaking on Palestine, Amal Clooney's name was brought up so many times because Amal Clooney is a human rights lawyer and people were completely baffled on why she wasn't speaking out about Gaza and the human rights abuses that were occurring there. And now, 7 months in, it's come to light that she has been working behind the scenes the entire time on an independent panel of experts for the ICC. Which means, yes, Amal Clooney is part of the team responsible for issuing the arrest warrants against Benjamin Netanyahu. This entire time, she's been unable to speak up because any form of activism would delegitimize her position on this panel of experts. It would make her a biased opinion and unable to actually accomplish the goal of issuing these arrest warrants. We owe her the biggest apology.
The ICC has finally issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant. While I have lost faith in Western institutions such as the I.Cj and the ICC and even the UN, this is still significant considering that the US empire has been pressuring and threatening the ICC not to issue arrest warrants. And this shows further evidence of how much of a pariah state Israel has become, as well as the further state of decline that the US empire is experiencing.
Today, May 20th, the ICC chief prosecutor concludes that Netanyahu and Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant have committed war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. I'm not sure what took so long. But of course, President Joe Biden has to come to Netanyahu's rescue moments later and says that there is no equivalence to Israel and Hamas and calls the International Criminal Court's allegation against Netanyahu as outrageous. He also states, "We will always stand with Israel against threats to its security." So simply put, President Joe Biden is saying that the ICC's opinion is not important and not valid. But when it comes to Putin and his war crimes, Biden welcomes the ICC war crime charges. Today, he says the ICC has no jurisdiction over this matter, but exactly a year ago, he said otherwise. Also, let's not forget that 2 days ago when he was at the Morehouse graduation, he was cheering for when they stated there needs to be a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. He was in the background cheering for a permanent ceasefire. It is so insane to me how back and forth Biden is. Especially when we're looking at the month of May. He has been so back and forth.
America and Israel's really pissed that the ICC is seeking arrest warrants for Netanyahu and his defense minister. What's so crazy is that when America created the ICC 26 years ago, they backed away like 22 years ago, citing that they were really concerned about motivated prosecutions of their military personnel. They were so afraid that the organization that they helped created would do its actual job and persecute people. But just 22 years later, they are seeking an arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense minister, which America is pissed, along with Israel. And the funny part is that if Netanyahu gets arrested, it's great for us. He's gonna get prosecuted and justice will be served. This is one step closer to dismantling the apartheid state of Israel. And if he's not arrested, this will still be great. It will just make Israel a pariah state, and honestly, a bigger pariah state, along with embarrassing the US even further. Because America is willing to go through Shrek's fucking swamp to protect Israel. And every single other government in the world is looking at each other like, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Because I'm seeing this. We should all work together and abandon America. This proves so many things, but one of the things it proves is that the current system in America is not working. America is not listening to its people. America is ignoring international law to protect its foothold in the Middle East. So all in all, people will get angry and justice will be served. If not now, then in the future. But what we can do now is to help donate to family in needed areas. I have a link in my bio. You know what it is for.
So this is just fresh off the news. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has actually have a warrant for his arrest issued by the ICC, which is the International Criminal Court, which has found him guilty in regards to war crimes that is currently being committed within Palestine. And this specific warrant that is out for his arrest is in relation to the war crimes that is currently being investigated by the ICC, which they've come on a ruling in regards to why they feel that the actions taken within Palestine by the Israel military was unwarranted for, and where there was a complete disregard for human lives, specifically in areas that they choose to retaliate against. A lot of skeptics have argued and said this is nothing and this is not going to serve anything and Israel is probably going to ignore it, but the rest of the world should be listening to the ruling of the ICC because it should be an example for all the other countries that has maintained alliances and remain complicit and silent in regards to 8 months of what has taken within Palestine and not said anything or done anything or sanctioned this specific, individual for doing these things. You should also be held accountable for your complicity in a...
Now, the International Criminal Court's conclusion that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant have committed war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza is a landmark moment in the pursuit of justice and accountability. For far too long, the people of Gaza have suffered under the weight of Israeli aggression, facing indiscriminate attacks, displacement, and humanitarian crisis. Now, the ICC's findings are a testament to the tireless efforts of human rights advocates and victims, families who have fought for recognition and redress. However, President Biden's swift rejection of the ICC's allegations is a disappointing but unsurprising move. The US has long shielded Israel from accountability, perpetuating a culture of impunity that emboldens further violence and oppression. By dismissing the ICC's findings as outrageous, President Biden not only undermines the integrity of international law, but also betrays the trust of the Palestinian people and the global community. His testament sends a clear message that the US prioritizes its political allegiance to Israel over the pursuit of justice and human rights. Now, as the international community grapples with the implications of the ICC's findings, it's important to remember the victims of Israel's atrocities and the countless lives lost, injured, or displaced. Now, the famous human rights lawyer Amal Clooney, who is also the wife of George Clooney, was among those who consulted and supported the decision on the ICC arrest warrants. The ICC prosecutor Karim Khan filed applications for arrest warrants because of the ongoing situation in the state of Palestine. Now, the arrest warrants are for both Palestinian and Israeli leaders, which includes a Palestinian leader, Yahya Sinwar. These arrest warrants for the political and military leadership of the State of Israel: Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, Hamas's top political and military leaders also being sought for crimes against humanity. Since Israel went to war against Hamas and has caused so many civilian casualties, and what international officials say starvation and famine also imposed. So these form the basis of the ICC charges, and they are now seeking arrest warrants that will have to be approved by a panel of independent judges. Now, the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, ICC, released a statement on his application for the arrest warrants of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas's leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, for war crimes. Karim Khan KC previously said there were reasonable grounds to believe that both men bore criminal responsibility for war crimes and crimes against humanity from at least 7 October 2023. Israel launched a military campaign in Gaza to destroy Hamas in response to the group's attack on southern Israel last year, during which about 1,200 people were unalived and 252 others were taken. Now, more than 35,456 people have been unalived in Gaza since then, according to the territory's Hamas-run health ministry. Now, statement, it reads, "Today I'm filing applications for warrants of arrest before pre-trial chamber of the International Criminal Court in the situation in the state of Palestine. On the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, I have reasonable grounds to believe that Yahya Sinwar, head of the Islamic Resistance Movement, Hamas, in the Gaza Strip, Muhammad Diab Ibrahim, more commonly known as DEIF Commander-in-Chief of the military wing of Hamas, known as the Al-Qassam Brigades, and head of Hamas Political Bureau, bear criminal responsibility for the following war crimes and crimes against humanity committed on the territory of Israel and the state of Palestine in the Gaza Strip from at least 7 October 2023. Extermination as a crime against humanity, contrary to Article 7(1)(b) of the Rome Statute. Unaliving as a crime against humanity, contrary to Article 7(1)(a), and as a war crime, contrary to Article 8(2)(c)(1). Taking 8 stages at a war crime, contrary to Article 8. Rape and other acts of violence as crimes against humanity, contrary to Article 7. And also as war crimes pursuant to Article 8 in the context of captivity. Torture as a crime against humanity, contrary to Article 7, and also as a war crime, contrary to Article 8 in the context of captivity. Other inhumane acts as a crime against humanity, contrary to Article 7 in the context of captivity. Cruel treatment as a war crime, contrary to Article 8 in the context of captivity. And outrages upon personal dignity as a war crime, contrary to Article 8 in the context of captivity. My office submits that war crimes alleged in these applications were committed in the context of an international armed conflict between Israel and Palestine, and a non-international armed conflict between Israel and Hamas running in parallel. We submit that the crimes against humanity charged were part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Israel by Hamas and other armed groups pursuant to organizational policies. Some of these crimes in our assessment continue to this day. Now it goes on and on and on as Joe Biden on Monday slammed the International Criminal Court prosecutor's application for arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling the move outrageous. And he said, let me be clear, whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no equivalence, none, between Israel and Hamas. We will always stand with Israel against threats to its security, Biden said in a statement. Now, his top aide Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, also criticized the move, raising questions over the court's jurisdiction as well as its process in making this application. He added that it could jeopardize negotiations to achieve a hostage deal and a ceasefire. Fundamentally, this decision does nothing to help and could jeopardize ongoing efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement that would get hostages out and surge humanitarian assistance in, Blinken said. We have finally come to the end of the video. What do you, my viewers, have to say? Share your thoughts as well in the comment section. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.